what makes anybody say Saint Denis is going to smash Thiago Moises, which almost feels like the sentiment of this matchup?
Unfortunately, it does feel like the sentiment of this matchup, Derek. And the only reason people are saying that is because Thiago Moises has really fallen into that gatekeeper role. He's fallen into the obscurity of no longer in the title hunt, no longer a name that we knew that was basically a household name to at least us hardcores about 3-5 years ago. Now he's fallen into that guy that you need to get past to get to the guys. And that's really an understatement, or I mean, not an understatement. That's an illusion if you're thinking that a Thiago Moises, this boy is not a slouch at all. Very, very dangerous, very crisp grappling. And that's what I'm excited to see how this unfolds with these two, because Benoit Saint Denis also has very slick grappling as well. It's just not as tested. Everybody knows him for the excitement that he brings. Very powerful striker as well. But I think his strengths do lie in that grappling, Derek. Would you agree with that?
Saint Denis?
Saint Denis.
I think he has definitely some grappling chops. Like, we've seen it put on display multiple times. I don't know if I would say like that's the core of his strengths, if that's what you're asking.
I'm just saying it because especially in his previous, UFC stint, or not his previous UFC stint, before he was in the UFC, he had like 5-6 submissions. This guy does work the submissions pretty often. But again, when you come into the UFC, it's a different caliber of people. Basically, how I was framing that sentence is, do you think the submission of these two fighters are going to cancel out? Or is one going to be supreme, or we're going to end up in a firefight?
Oh, okay. Yeah. With that context, I think that Moises still holds the edge in the grappling. I think he'll be the more confident one who will engage in grappling and not care as much about the consequences. Because if you look at the last loss that Thiago Moises has that's come from a submission, it was actually the Islam Makhachev rear naked choke, right? So when it comes down to that, man, you're like, all right, you got choked out by Makhachev, Habib Light, right? Habib Jr. I mean, you're not going to be that concerned to grapple against the rest of these guys. I think the real fear is, if you're Thiago Moises, try not to get caught with your back against the cage against Benoit Saint Denis, because he's going to come another downhill fighter, man. Just like the tenacity that Saint Denis fights with is incredible. It's almost one of those things that I think freezes up the opponents, because they don't understand how he can continuously keep coming. Even if you catch him with a counter, he's still downhill. You have to put Saint Denis away if you want to win your fight, pretty much, it seems like. Because if you look at the last fight that Saint Denis lost, okay, Elizeu Zaleski, it was a decision loss, but everything else, man, he's finishing these guys. He's the God of War for a reason. Massive finish kind of streak, if you think about like 8 or 9 of the last 10 or something like that, right? So what does Thiago Moises' veteranship bring to the octagon in this matchup against Saint Denis, man? You're in enemy territory. You're the more skilled fighter. You're the underdog. You're trying to come up and get the victory. Do we see a finishing opportunity here, or what do you think the game plan is?
Finishing opportunity for Denis?
No, for Moises. The opposite for Moises, yeah.
I don't think so, Derek. That one, I don't think so. I was going to say Denis, probably. Yeah. We might see that coming. But for Moises, I don't think so, because what he's going to bring to the cage, what his veteranship is going to bring to the cage, is composure in those moments you were talking about, when Benoit Saint Denis is able to freeze people when they're just scared shitless. Like, damn, this dude's still coming at me. It's the third round with all the pressure he has since the first. I think Thiago Moises is going to strive most in those moments, not being broken, not having his character challenged, and actually having the veteranship to compose himself and stay in the fight and give Benoit Saint Denis one of the hardest fights he's had so far. And don't get me wrong, he's gone up against some savages, the Ishmael Bonfim, as well as the Zaleski fight. Zaleski is very powerful as well, but I mean, Thiago Moises is a dog, brother. So there's nothing, and maybe it's just a little retrospective of me because I'm such an old school fan, Derek. But that's why I think this is going to be one of the hardest fights he's had. Do you think so as well, or is this steamroll city for Saint Denis?
I just want to make sure that I understand the question clear. Is this going to be one of the hardest fights for Saint Denis or for Moises?
Hardest fights for Saint Denis, or will Saint Denis just steamroll Moises?
Yeah, I think this will be the hardest fight, man. This is the most skilled fighter that you fought, with the biggest background and you know what I mean, the best resume. Like, I think, yeah, there's levels to this, and he's reached that level where you beat Moises, just as you alluded to. You unlock a new cast of characters that you can fight. It's like a video game almost. So I think that the biggest part is that Benoit Saint Denis cannot get overzealous. You cannot chase a finish, think it's almost there, and then slip up, because that's where Moises will catch you. But I do think this is another one where size and strength are going to play into a factor. Benoit Saint Denis is like the clearly larger man, 2-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. He's a big guy, and I think he gets the job done. And AJ would be really easy for me to call TKO Smash City, but I do think that this is another interesting one, man, where because the submissions aren't going to be there, in my opinion, I'll take the plus 250 decision, man. I'm going to give respect to Thiago Moises.
I'm right there with you, Derek. I'm on that same boat. Decision plus 250. I think this is going to be a very challenging fight for both men, but I do think Benoit Saint Denis pulls it out in the end.
And it's almost a crazy thing to say, man. You look at all of his wins in the last 10 fights over the last 4 years. He's finished everybody. Everybody. You have one no contest, and then you have a decision loss, and you finished everybody else. This is going to be a fun matchup.